Greetings, I'm Mark Riley, and welcome to the Washington Tattoo Podcast, where the world's musical traditions come to life. The Washington Tattoo is an international music and arts festival coming to the Washington, D.C. metro area. Our podcast explores the lives and stories of world-renowned musicians, dancers, producers, choreographers, artists, educators, arts advocates, and those who serve our cultural communities at large. For more information and donations, find us at www.thewashingtontattoo.com. Now, please enjoy this episode of the Washington Tattoo Podcast, sharing the power of the arts, one story at a time. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Washington Tattoo Podcast. We have the incredible Kyle Dawson on the other end. Kyle, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
Very, very good. We've been chatting. We're using a new platform today. We're really excited about it. We're using Riverside. And honestly, I've got Stu on the other side as well. Stu, how are you this morning?
Afternoon. Yeah, all good. Very good tonight.
I love this. I love connecting. We have New York, D.C., Manchester. I love it. It's this great kind of triangular moment in the world today. So Kyle is the president of the National Tartan Day York Committee and has put on so many incredible festivals and events in New York. And I feel like we have really an honor to talk to him about his experience, how he grew up, the items and events that he get where he is today. And we're going to unpack all of that. So super excited to have you, Kyle. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me. I met you guys during Tartan Week and excited to see what you guys come up with down there. I unfortunately wasn't able to make your first tattoo that you had, which I saw was pretty amazing. Looking forward to coming down next year, though, because it'll be earlier in the week and I won't be busy.
Love it. Love it. But so honestly, just, your background, how you got started really becoming, a major player in the Scottish diaspora in New York. Talk a little bit about your upbringing and how you got involved.
Sure. It's really funny. I didn't really get into anything Scottish until I was about 38. I was older in my life, and always had the my grandfather spoke about having the Scottish blood and stuff and Scottish background. We also have a lot more more of a mutt, but I'm 39% Scottish, so I'll keep that. Another 17% Scandinavian. I think that's where the beard comes from. But so when I was 38, I joined another little small kilt group in New Jersey. I was starting to be interested in it, and a couple of friends, and we went into New York City for the Celtic Fest Naz that the Britneys put on. And great show, amazing music they were playing. It was great. We all wore our kilts, had a great time. And I met Leslie Denninger from the New York Caledonian Club. And she said to me, "Why aren't you a member of the club?" And I said, "That's a good question." So I joined the club and been plowing through ever since.
That's incredible. So, at that point, too, when you're 38, was it a specific, was it a childhood memory? Was it a movie? What was the initial thought of hey, I want to do this?
I've had I had Utilakilts since I was 25. Always got the Utilikilt stuff, and they were fun. My brother actually turned me on to Utilakilts. So I had a few of those, and then started to look a little bit more into kilts and stuff. And by the time I was 38, it's okay, I need to buy a real one. So got a real kilt, and I was like, wow, this is nice.
That's awesome.
There's nothing like wearing a kilt, you just feel amazing.
Yeah. Kyle, you've got some bagpipes behind you. I'm guessing you play bagpipes. Is that correct?
I do.
So
yeah.
How old were you when you first started, and what got you into that?
I was 40. I was 40 when I started.
Late starter.
Yeah. It was actually August, a month before I turned 40. I decided, I was like, you know what, I need to do something because I'm not doing anything with my life. I'm just working and doing yard work. And I was like, I need to do something with my life. So I decided, well, I'm doing this kilt thing. Why don't I start playing bagpipes? I've never played an instrument. I played piano when I was 15, but I was never accomplished pianist. You know, it was just I played Mary Had a Little Lamb kind of thing. You know, wasn't very good. Um, but decided I wanted to learn bagpipes and looked up learning bagpipes on the internet, and I found a pipe band in Point Pleasant called St. Brendan Navigator Pipes and Drums. And I
Okay.
gave their manager a call, and he's like, "Yeah, come on down Wednesday nights. We're practice. We'll teach you everything." I'm like, "Great!" So I drove down there and walked in, and there was three people at the table, and no one else showed up. And I sat there with three people that were older guys, and they're like, "Do you have a chanter?" I'm like, "No." And one of them grabbed in his bag and pulled out an extra chanter and said, "Here, take this till you get one." Gave me an extra chanter, and yeah.
And how did you find it?
How did I find the band or?
No, the playing. What was it a
Oh,
long struggle, or did you just
oh
sort of get to it
no,
straight away?
it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle. You know, when you work manual labor your whole life, your hands they tend to get like stiff and you can't really move. Like, I mean, if I was 8 years old learning how to play A, I probably wouldn't have wanted to do that because you know who has that discipline at 8 years old except for these kids from Scotland that are just amazing. Um, my fingers they just don't move the way they should to go. So I can play. I enjoy it. I have 20 or 30 tunes under my belt that I can play that I love to play. I started competitions the year before COVID. Actually, it's a kind of a funny story. I When I started piping, I was just doing beer and pretzel piping band. You know, it's like we called it a beer and pretzel band because we would just get on the street and pipe in the parades and then hit the bars afterwards and play in the bars to get drinks or what have you. And a very well known piper, Derek Midgley, was the instructor of the band down there. He knew a lot of people in the band, and he just had a good like the band was in his heart. You know, he loved it. Um, Even though he had progressed on, and he's an open class piper, the most decorated American piper in Scotland, plays for or used to play for Scottish Power. Just an all around amazing piper. Um, I met him one day on the street, and he was talking about something and putting in the earplugs. And I'm like, "Oh, what are you putting in the earplugs for?" He's like, "I always put in the earplugs." I'm like, "Oh, why?" He goes, "Got to protect your hearing so you can hear the tuning." It was a very embarrassing moment because then I found out he was Derek Midgley, and I didn't know it was Derek Midgley when I met him. But so he used to yell at me. He's like, I can teach you how to play bagpipes, but I cannot teach you how not to play them. So if you're just going to play them the way you want to play them, that's fine. I'm not going to teach you. You do your thing. I'm not going to teach you, but I'm not going to teach you the wrong way to do it. I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
get that, no problem. So, I did my thing, and then I decided that I wanted to start competing. And my first competition that I did was in Ohio. I got third place out of seven. And then I went to New Hampshire, and I walked up to my tent to where I'm competing, and who's my judge? Derek Midgley. And he looked at me and he says, "I thought competing wasn't for you." And I'm like, "Well, I changed." He's like, "Good. I'm glad to see you here." So it was about 15 people in that pack, and I got sixth place out of 15 on my second
Wow,
competition.
amazing. So you said you started competing just before lockdown.
Yeah,
Obviously, COVID hit. Do you find over lockdown you've started practicing more or less or
I
just the
actually
same?
played a lot more during lockdown because we did the 7 o'clock cheer. So I'd go out on the streets of Manhattan and
Mhm.
pipe at 7 o'clock every single night, and then play for a good 20 minutes, half hour out on the streets. And
Amazing.
I played a lot more than during lockdown than I ever did.
That's
That's great.
yeah. I mean, honestly, that right there is something I think that's. I mean, people kind of captured that, but I'm sure the sense of community in New York exploded with just finding some way to connect. How like were there a bunch of musicians on the street at that point, or what was that like?
There's well up on the Upper East Side there wasn't very many musicians, but there's tons of videos online you could see where like full bands would come out on the street, like they'd stay their distance apart and everything, and if you're not playing a mouth blown instrument or whatever, you wore a mask and all that stuff, but they were just sitting on the street just playing for people, and It was often. You see, like, I know there's a video out there. I'd have to try and find it. I've seen a bunch of musicians all on like fire escapes, all in different parts out of different apartments on fire escapes, just playing together. It's like it was really. I mean, obviously, it's a terrible time, in the States here during turf time everywhere. But I think it also brought a lot of communities together. I think a lot of people really got together behind people and tried to help.
Yeah, I mean, it was similar in the UK. We had a thing called Clap for Carers, and that happened at 5 o'clock in the evening. And the idea was to go out at 5 o'clock, clap, but there's people bringing, start with pots and pans and banging them, and then all of a sudden there was musical instruments coming out, and it turned into an actual thing, and there was people then getting dressed up in their uniforms and doing it. So, for just a show of appreciation, it then broadened the horizon of loads of people, and it made awareness of other people who weren't, didn't know about bagpipes, didn't know about marching bands, and it turned into quite a thing over here.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. It was a good community building moment, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting. I remember, I mean, right after my father was working out, but I talked about the level of community that comes with hardship like that. And I know the music community, really decimated. But to see, those folks come out, each day or once a week or whatever it was for either the first responders or the nurses that were dealing with patients, like, that was just such a rallying. So my hat's off to you on that. That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, even since we haven't done 7 o'clock cheer here in a while now, but even since then, I bump into like nurses here and there at different bars, whatever. My area, we have like 4 different hospitals within like a 3 block radius. We have 4 different hospitals here in New York City, and like some of the local bars that I go to hang out. I bump into nurses. Sometimes the conversation comes up and they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember the Viper. That was great." Blah blah blah. I'm like, that was me.
Yeah, and I'm sure.
amazing.
They usually get pretty emotional at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, getting their mind off of all of that is the it's all about. Very cool. So, question on the next part of this. I mean, you grew up, I think, in the New York area as a kid. Is that correct?
Yeah, New Jersey.
So, I mean, being exposed to parades and things like that, I'm sure you'd seen parades, you'd seen local firemen's parades or festivals or even
Yep.
other nationality day parades. And now you lead one of the biggest ones in the world. So, I mean, as a kid, did you kind of see yourself being involved, or how did you,
No, absolutely not. I mean, I just used to love to go to the parades and just watch them. I never really I never really even considered being a part of a parade, let alone running one. Like my first actual Tartan Day Parade was 2011.
wow, incredible.
Yeah, and I marched in the 2011 parade as a flag carrier for the New York Caledonian Club.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and then
That's great.
2012
So,
I marched as just a member. In 2013 I was part of the Grand Marshal's crew, and then no, that was 2014. 2013 was I was piping in 2013 in the parade, and then 2014 I was part of the Grand Marshal's crew, and then 2015, 16, 17, 18 I've just been involved.
so moving on to your involvement, obviously you're part of the committee for the National Tartan Day in New York. Just let me know how you got involved in the committee.
Sure.
Did you get approached, or how did
Well,
all that come about, and when?
all goes back to Leslie Denninger. When I joined the club, about a year later, I got on the board, and then 6 months after being on the board, I became treasurer, and then I've been treasurer ever since. And Leslie was the chief when I started joining, and then she had stepped down, and someone else became chief, and then she was back to being chief again. And she approached me in 2015 and said, "I'm running as chief again. I can't." She was the so sorry. Let me. The National Tartan Day New York Committee is made up of 4 organizations. It's the the St. Anne's Society of State of New York, the New York Caledonian Club, the American Scottish Foundation, and Clan Campbell. Each organization has 1 voting member on the committee for the National Tartan Day New York Committee. Leslie was the voting member from the New York Caledonian Club on the National Tartan Day New York Committee. Leslie is a past president of the National Tartan Day New York Committee. She's been with the committee for quite some time. Um, and then when she was getting elected chief of the Caledonian Club, again, she said, I can't run the Tartan Day Committee and run the club at the same time. So do you want to be the representative on the Tartan Day Committee? And I said, sure, absolutely. Why not? I'll do that. Because I've been working with her for past like 2 years prior, helping her with a lot of things. And she's been showing me, different things that the committee does and ropes and stuff and learning how to do stuff. Um, and then so I got on the National Tartan Day New York Committee as the treasurer in 2015. And then in May of 2015, yes, May of 2015, I was elected treasurer. May of 2016, I was elected president.
Incredible.
Wow, amazing.
So I mean, this year,
And then I've been president ever since.
so this, yeah,
wow.
coming through this.
So go
No, it's this year being the first year after the pandemic really hit everybody super hard, and having the parade back. Did it feel like it was back full swing this year? What was the difference this year with the parade?
So in 2019, the last parade that we had prior to pandemic with Billy Connolly as the Grand Marshal, the crowds had grown massively. We had in I'm going to say 2018, we probably had about 30,000 spectators on the street, and in 2019 we had over 50,000.
wow.
We had 3,000 marchers. We went we've never gone in the parade. We've never gone from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. That's our scheduled slot for the parade. We've never done it. It's always been 2 to 3, 3:15, maybe 3:30 sometimes. But we actually went to about 4:15 with the amount of people that we had in the parade in 2019. It was massive. I think a lot of people came out because they love Billy, and the word got out pretty good that he was a Grand Marshal, and it was just he was amazing. The parade was amazing. Everything was fantastic. This year we had probably about 27,000 spectators on the street. It was a bit lower. And we only had about 2,400 marchers, so we're also a bit shy on the mark of marchers. But I think that's just because it's the first year back. A lot of people still hesitant to come out, and do things, and totally understandable. And that's that is what it is. We had a great time. The parade was great. The parties were great. Everything was fantastic. Everybody that came out was was like we have this thing that the National Tartan Day New York Committee has a definition for Tartan Day, and it's what the Scots Americans and Scottish immigrants have done to help build this country. It's our celebration of that. For me, I take it a little bit further, and I just call Tartan Day here in New York a family reunion, because when you're here during Tartan Day, any pub you go to, whatever, any event you go to, it's nothing but hugs, kisses. How you doing? I haven't seen you in a year. How have you been? What's happening with you? What's going on? It's so good to see you. It's a big family reunion. Everybody comes out. They save up their vacations to come to Tartan Day, and they come every year. It's just a big family reunion for us. Yeah.
And I'm guessing with everything opening up now, next year is going to be back on track to be the bigger and better thing, and even not bigger because people are not being anywhere and they're not seeing anybody for such a long time. So
yes, it was our 25th anniversary of Tartan Day as well next year. Okay. So we're gearing up to make a full week of events where we want to do we usually start off the week on Wednesday for a kickoff party, and then we go till Sunday. This year for next April, we want to start on Monday and go full on all the way to the following Monday. Just make a full 7 days, different events every day, all day, all kinds of stuff. So,
wow, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So question on that, for groups that are marching in the parade, what kind of groups are you looking for?
Anything that has something to do with Scotland. It doesn't matter what kind of group you are, if you're an organization, if you're a band, if you're a school, whatever you are, doesn't matter. A government organization, a college, a primary school. We have Alexander Robertson School here in New York City marches in the parade every year, and their main logo is a Scottish thistle.
Yeah.
Like they're part of the Presbyterian Church on 95th, and that was very well known as a Scottish church. So it's yeah,
I think it's really interesting.
anything has to do with Scotland.
Well, I grew up as a kid in the New York City area, and then had done the St. Patrick's Day parades, had done Pakistani Day parades, and all of that. And I think the 25th anniversary. So I'm even thinking the first year that the Tartan Day Parade happened in New York City, I was in college, and I was not even aware that it really was happening until a handful of years ago. And was doing a bunch of research. You and I had chatted about coming up this year to do representation for the Washington Tattoo. And honestly, what struck me is one of the most incredible things about it was that it wasn't one generational. You could see really three strong generations, kind of from a baby boomer perspective to a Gen X to the millennials. I mean, there was a lot of representation there. But even if you go back to kind of like that greatest generation, there are folks that came out from there. So it's almost that you had these four generations of people supporting.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with just, the level of support from not just one particular generation, but four different generations of folks out there.
Yeah, it's everybody loves the parade, I think. Lots of people love to come out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a sense of pride,
Yeah. And it's obviously a massive thing, and it must take a bit of time to sort out. So, what are some of your duties during that parade week?
During the parade week is everything and anything from yeah. I mean, it's I don't have any one duty. I think really, a lot of people are trying to tell me, you're the face of the parade. You gotta just be out there and glad handing people and being, pictures and just talking to people and this and that. But I'm not that guy. I like to get in there and I help and I do things. And I'm all dressed up. I'm carrying boxes of T-shirts and flags and everything just to get the parade going and get everything set up and trying to organize what's happening during the week. And yeah.
So you just wear a lot of hats during that week.
Yep.
Many jobs. Okay.
So
whatever needs to get done, that's what I do.
Yeah. So the committee that you are running, how many folks are on that committee?
On the executive board is four. Outside of the executive board, there's upwards of sometimes, depending on the time of the year, could be 6 up to 10, 12, sometimes more.
Wow. And I'm sure like the volunteers that have to come out just to be a part of it, helping hand the week of, the couple of weeks before is probably massive as well.
No, we don't have a lot of people. Like this year, the parade was run this year on the street by 5 people.
Wow. That's amazing. But I mean, you're probably also collaborating and connecting with, I'm sure you have, New York City Police Department, all those folks in the
Yes.
city. So what are some of those connections that you have there with the city?
NYPD's always a large presence at the parade. They love it. The horses come out, the mounted police come out. And we work very closely with Riley Doonan. He's our parade marshal. He basically organizes the parade. He brings in a few of his people for security to make sure things get set up the right way and where they need to be. And
Yeah, incredible. So I mean,
sorry, Mark. I was just going to say, once that parade finishes, when do you then start planning for the next one? Do you give yourself a bit of a breather, or are you straight back in on it?
No, I take a month off.
Okay, and then it's straight back on to ready for the next year.
Yeah, this year we took a little bit longer. We took a month off, and then we did just a committee meeting to do a post-mortem of the parade, just to the what went right, what went wrong. It doesn't matter. There's no arguments. There's no like disappointments. It's like, what can we do better?
Yeah.
How can we change what we did this year to make it better next year? And
Yeah.
it was a good meeting this year. Lots of great feedback, and I think all in all, pretty much everything went well. We were a little shy on volunteers on the street. Typically, we have like 15 people on the street just to help out with things to make sure people are in the right lineup. We have all the clipboards with the printouts of the marching lineup that people go up and down the road, making sure the different groups are in the right order. Because you have Bob Crichton, who's been the voice of the parade for it's got to be 6, 7 years now. He stands on a bus and with a microphone and a loudspeaker and talks about every group that comes up the road. And when the line of march is not in the correct order, he's shuffling through papers to find, the group that's walking in front of him so that he could speak about them and tell, give everyone their proper due on the day.
Wow. So obviously somebody's got to write that narration, do they? Or does that come from yourselves about the order of the parade and who's in it?
Yeah, so Mark Riley, sorry, you're Mark Riley, Riley Doonan. Riley Doonan is the one that usually does all the layout of the parade. He's been doing the parade for many years. He knows all the groups, knows everyone. He also is the parade marshal for the St. Patrick's Day Parade as well.
Okay.
So he knows all the local groups, knows all the local people. He likes to, puts everyone in the right order. He knows where people need to be. Like the organizations are always the leading groups, the Tartan Day Committee's up in front, and it's St. Andrew's Society and the New York Caledonian Club and the American Scottish Foundation and Clan Campbell are all like listed up in a row there.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
So on that note, with the parade coming up at the 25th anniversary next year, you've already started planning. Are there, like, if you're looking for a grand marshal, I mean, somebody
Yes.
of some pretty large stature, that's probably not easy to find for sure. But I mean, it's New York City, which is what a lot of people would love to be a part of, right?
Yes, I think they're typically not terribly easy to find, but once we have like who we're really looking at, Charlie and Howie Nicholsby from 21st Century Kilts, they're very heavily involved with us. They are like our connection to the stars, and they always manage to whenever I throw a name at them, they're like, okay, let's see what we can do. And it usually always happens. So
Wow.
I'm not worried. I'm sure 25th we're going to have a great grand marshal that everyone's going to be very happy to have.
I love it.
I'm already excited myself.
So yeah, I think we were talking about this earlier. So Tartan Day in the U.S. is April 6th, and what I think is very interesting, I think, is because of how Easter falls for 2023, that actually puts an interesting kind of pause in between the events in D.C. and the events in New York. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we since we hold our parade on Saturday, closest to April 6th. Easter is on that following Sunday, and we never compete with Easter. We don't want to compete with Easter. We don't want to, because that just makes too many problems for everybody, traveling and coming over here, or like just doing their own celebrations they want. Sometimes we have it earlier, sometimes we have it later. We've had it pretty late. This is the latest I think we've ever had it, the 15th, just because of where Easter falls. So it's going to be April 15th. But that's fine. We're not worried about it. It'll be the full week prior, so it'll start right after Easter's over, and we'll go straight on through.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. We coordinate this properly, which I think the discussions are already in the mix. You have a full week potentially in D.C., take a little break and a breather for Easter, and then just go a little bit north on the train, go on the Amtrak Acela, get up to New York for another full week.
That'd be great. Yeah, I definitely want to come down for some of your events in DC there.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps me a little bit because usually I'm like like 2 days before the parade I can't come all the way down there to to take part in some fun, and so this is going to be a full week ahead of time. I think I'll have some time to come down.
Yeah, and we're excited this year too, because I think now there's a long enough glide path where, talking to the British Embassy, talking to the Scottish government, the First Minister came to Washington a couple of weeks ago, had a fantastic conversation with her, and just a lot of excitement, I think, about what, it's hard to say post-COVID, because we're kind of just living in this kind of COVID, mesh.
Yeah.
We're going to be just around, but, how do we navigate keeping people safe, still doing events, involving folks from the cultural side of the house, from the Scottish side, from the British Embassy side, and then honestly, the Scottish diaspora in New York is massive, and how this whole conversation moves together in 2023 is really exciting. So, I think Stu, you got a question about future plans, things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Also, you're a very busy guy. I'm just wondering if you got any future plans coming up that you'd like to share with us, or is everything all top secret and hush hush?
Future plans for what, Tartan Day, or for myself?
Just for yourself. Just for yourself.
Yeah. So my mother turned 70 this year. I'm taking her to Scotland for the first time. She's never been to Scotland. They actually got their passports this year.
Wow.
So it's going to be a nice trip. We're doing quite a bit out there. We'll be in Edinburgh, Falkirk for the Kelpies, and Glasgow for the Worlds. Then out to Oban to spend some time with friends in Oban. Taking her on the Jacobite steam train. It was one of her bucket list ticks to do. So we'll go up to Fort William, take her on a steam train to Mallaig, and then drive up to Inverness and out to Black Isles to see Clare Prickly Thistle. Then back down and off to Edinburgh to do the tattoo in Edinburgh.
Wow, that's a great trip. That's amazing.
Yeah. Try to cram it all into one trip,
Yeah, that's a lot. But if you're coming across all this way, you might as well try and get as much into it as possible. And I'm going to be at the Worlds myself, so hopefully the weather's going to be a little bit better than it has been in previous years. So fingers crossed for that one.
Yeah. Hopefully, I've been to Worlds a few times, and sometimes it's it's Scotland. Scotland in August, you get all four seasons.
Normally in one day.
Yeah, no, it was actually the last time I was there, it was within 20 minutes. We had all four seasons.
Amazing.
St. Lawrence O'Toole came up to the line to go in to do their circle, and it was sunny and bright. And just before they started out, it started raining a little bit, and then it started to sleet and a little snow, and then by the time they were done with their set, the sun was back out, and they marched off. It was interesting. It was all four seasons in 15 minutes.
Wow. Well, fingers crossed for this year anyway.
Yeah, we may all have to share a dram together at the Worlds, because I think we have a pretty strong American contingent. I know there's some folks that are coming from the DC area, from New York for sure, and the Washington Tattoo is very lucky to be friends with Stu and the British Drum Company, as well as the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. So we'll be bringing over a team as well, and we'll definitely have to connect.
Nice. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. That'll be great.
Greetings again, everyone. We just wanted to take a second to say thank you to Seif Studios for their creative media. If you want to find out more about Seif Studios, look them up on www.seifstudios.com. We'd also like to say thank you to our educational partner, ProLogix Percussion, American-made drum pads. They're doing a special discount code for our listeners today. So if you go to www.prologixpercussion.com and type in TWT20, you will receive 20% off your entire order.
Awesome. So the last little bit, Kyle, for the final four, and we'll go back and forth, but I'll start off with this. Do you have a favorite musical memory so far?
Favorite musical memory? Yeah. Honestly, it's so many different things have been just great and amazing, and I guess so far this 10 years now piping, I have to say my favorite musical memories actually this year. Guinness hired a friend of mine, Corey Armstrong, great great piper, to do St. Patrick's Day in Boston. They had a Guinness branded bus and they wanted pipers, and she asked me to be one of those pipers. So we had four pipers on the street on the right side of the bus, four pipers on the left side of the bus, four pipers on top of the bus with two drummers, and we went through the entire Boston St. Patrick's Day Parade piping, and it was like the crowds were insane. They were insane. It was so much fun. It was just so amazing to be a part of.
That's cool. That's really cool. So I've got a quick question for you. Do you have a favourite book, whether it be a musical book or a non-musical book, that you sort of constantly go back to every now and again?
I'm not definitely not much of a reader.
Okay.
Like I have several books. I have a bunch of different books, but I don't really read them.
No, I'm the same, to be honest. I spend a lot of mine are all audiobooks now. I don't have time to read. All mine are done, when I'm traveling.
Yeah, it's either practicing, planning, or cooking and socializing and working. I don't really have a lot of reading time.
No. Well, that sounds like a perfect mix anyway, so.
Awesome. So, hobby. Obviously, piping is a hobby. Do you have any other hobbies?
Oh, I guess furniture building. I've done. I used to build furniture right out of high school. I went to high school for carpentry and cabinet making, and I got out of it. A long time ago. I've been in IT for 20 plus years now, um, and I just this past through pandemic. Another friend of mine owns a great business, Lionworks Designs. He does a bunch of anything custom, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Like you tell him what you want, he designs it and builds it. So for a year and a half, I was working with him, building furniture and doing different things.
Awesome.
Well, just before I ask the last question, before we started the recording, we spoke about that little picture just over the cross from your shoulder. Obviously, being a child of the late 70s and early 80s, do you want to just let everybody know what it's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. My girlfriend's brother-in-law, Joe Simcoe, is an artist for Garbage Pail Kids. And we were in Virginia doing the holidays for Christmas. She's from Virginia. And he was talking about having a new line of Garbage Pail Kids coming out, and it was called Food Fight, and needed ideas for what to make for the characters. So I told him, well, why don't you make a guy in a kilt eating out of his stomach, and you can call him Haggis Hamish. And so he did the concept work up, and the concept work came out great, and they approved it. And as fans of Garbage Pail Kids would know, there's an A card and a B card. The A card is Haggis Hamish, and the B card is actually Kilted Kyle. So I have a inspiration. I'm the inspiration of a Garbage Pail Kid.
I mean, that's such a cool claim to fame. So yeah, just to finish off, obviously you're involved with the New York City Tartan Day Parade and the New York the New York Scottish scene. How can people who don't know about that find out about it? Is that do they just go online, or where are the best places to get
online
knowledge?
NYC NYCTartanWeek.org. If you want Facebook, Instagram is at NYC Tartan Week. Everything's out there.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm a huge following on one of the great Kyle. Is it Prez Tartan? What's the handle on Instagram?
Tartan Prez, yeah. Tartan Prez.
Always great out there. But Kyle, thank you so much for the time today. This has been really enlightening, and honestly, super excited to work with you in the future. And I see really just some exciting stuff happening between our two organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I can't wait to have you guys up, and I want to see a full drum line up here when you guys come up for next year.
Yeah, I was going to tell you.
That'd be great.
Yeah. The Stony Creek Fife and Drum Corps brought in some ringers to play for this year's parade, and we talked about it because, when you're saying most things happen, there's a lot of different things that happen. There are different personalities involved, and honestly, one of the bass drummers turned around to me and said, this was 1.5 miles of pure drum corps bliss. And he It's of his entire career. So if anyone has not been to the Tartan Day Parade in New York City, they're really missing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thanks again, Kyle.
Take care, Kyle.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Hey everyone, this is Mark Riley again. We want to share a great opportunity with you to get your business name out to our listeners. We are looking for individual episode and yearly sponsors for the Washington Tattoo Podcast. So if you love music, history, and want to support military veterans, please take this step with us and consider being a sponsor. For information on that, please email marketing@thewashingtontattoo.com.